All right.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mentor Podcast. Ron LeGrand here. My special guest today is Josh DeShong, a guy you probably haven't heard of, but most certainly will after today's call. This guy does about 400 wholesale houses a year, which is mind-boggling even to me. Has a big history in business, co-founding businesses, one of which he wants to tell you about, because I'm sure you're going to want to be part of it. And Wall Street experience, and started at the age of 18, for crying out loud. I could barely talk when I was 18. How you doing, Josh?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on here today, Ron.
Well, I don't know anybody that knows more about you than you, so I think I'm just going to let them tell them how important they are, and go from there. And then I want to get in this conversation about how in the world can anybody wholesale 400 houses a year. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So yeah, I started at 18, like you said, right out the gate, knew nothing about real estate. I remember after I became a real estate broker. That was my birth into the real estate space. And I remember I passed my real estate license, and I was doing my first transaction, and it asked me I had to fill in a blank for earnest money. And I was like, wait, what is that again? So yeah, I got into real estate at 18. Knew nothing about the space, started investing. So that was about 2006, 2007. Perfect timing, by the way. I just want to call that out. And then fast forward to 2012, at post crash, I started investing and buying houses, and continued to scale. I tried to do everything big. So at the time, we had a team that was doing hundreds of transactions a year. So I wanted to flip hundreds of transactions a year. And so that's what we started doing, scaling up flipping. And over the years, we actually, I think a lot of people go from wholesaling to flipping. We actually went from flipping to wholesaling.
What's the difference?
Yeah, great question. No balance sheet risk. So that's the way that we look at it is, wholesaling, it has a higher velocity of returning of our capital, right? So
what do you consider flipping?
So flipping, buying, putting money into it at all. Even just trash out, we consider that. So once it's entered our balance sheet, we consider that a flip. So,
well, just for your record here, I probably invented the word flipping. And anytime you buy and sell a house, regardless of how you do it, is flipping on our planet. In fact, putting a lease option tenant buyer in a house is flipping. Wholesaling is flipping. Rehabbing is all flipping. But I get it. You're actually going to buy the house, and on one side, you're not going to buy the house. On the other side, you're just assigning contracts. So therefore, if I'm not buying houses, I don't really have a balance sheet. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Right.
All right. Nor do I have any risk.
Right.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we started scaling up our flipping operation. But what happened, Ron, was, I had a limited amount of capital in the very beginning. I effectively bootstrapped everything, started with nothing, the classic story. And I didn't know anything.
I was rich when I started.
I love it.
That's not true. That's not true.
I don't know many rich people that are starting in it. So
yeah, you're right. Okay.
But no, so I started scaling the business, and what happened was I was flipping houses, and we built this marketing engine, and we were buying houses at a pretty consistent pace, but I couldn't afford all the houses we were buying. So we started selling off the houses slowly. And then, so that was 10% of our business. Then it was 20, then it was 50, then it was 100. And so we just made the decision, we want to stop investing and taking down properties for a long period of time, and just focus on turning as fast as we possibly could.
All right. So first of all, how many states are you in?
So right now we're only in Texas and Florida. So we're in Dallas, Houston, and Tampa and Jacksonville.
Yeah, as you were discussing, you're in my city. You're interfering with my houses that I should be buying.
You were on the list for us to call before we came out there.
You and I just made a deal that I'm going to get all the houses you get in Jacksonville, right?
Yep, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, okay. All right.
That's what I had to do to get on the podcast, right?
Yeah, right. So listen, you 400 houses a year. Coming back to that, what is your average profit per wholesale deal?
Yeah, so per wholesale, we're at about $24,000 a pop.
That's really good for wholesaling. Of course, in this market, I'm sure you'll agree the whole country is full of greater fools paying way too much for these properties, which does make it easier when you can sell them for more than they should be paying for them. Who do you sell to? I know you must be selling to some hedge funds as well as some individual investors.
Yeah, so great question. We actually built a marketplace, and that was what you mentioned earlier, called Trelly, Trelloy.
That's an
And
app.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
You
an
guys better
app.
write that down, Trelly, because you're going to want to get on that app. All right.
Yep. So the way it works is we acquire wholesale deals, and we actually post them on the Trelly app. And there's north of 15,000 investors that are actively using the Trelly app or website today.
But none in
And
Jacksonville, right?
none, only Ron LeGrand is the only one in
You're full of it, Josh. Yeah. All right.
So yeah, so we've got all these different investors on there, and they effectively bid against each other to find the most optimal price for the wholesaler or the investor who's selling it off.
So that's how it works. You go on there and you just bid, and you have an ending date and time of the bid.
Yep,
So
exactly.
So it's a wholesale auction. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so some wholesalers will put up videos giving you video tours. Some are setting up times. We that's one of the things we do. So we schedule like a 1-hour visit where people come in to the property, and they can look and ask questions or whatever, and then they can submit their bid from their phone or their desktop computer once they get back to it.
Do you find most of your buyers are from out of town or from in town?
I would say majority of the buyers right now are in market. So most of the Jacksonville buyers are in Jacksonville or very close to Jacksonville.
Okay. So that means if I attended one of your open houses, then I could meet a whole bunch of people who could sell me houses, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the end of the day, that's not competitive, because we just are, our mission, Ron, is to make real estate investors more money. Our mission is to make this business work more seamlessly.
Of course. How do you get paid as the owner of the Trelly app?
So today, for a limited time, we're actually not charging anything for its use. So we only make money on our own wholesale deals, and we're providing the Trelly marketplace free of charge today.
Well, that's kind of nice of you. All right.
Yeah.
So basically you created this thing for your own use, and now you're just sharing it, but you're also got an immediate outlet for your houses. All right. So you're only in 2 states. Let's start with, you'd say you do 400 a year, Josh. What does your organization look like right now?
Yeah, so
they're all virtual, right?
No, definitely not. No, we have in Dallas, we've got an office space with engineers, marketing, administrative, contract coordinators. Now, from a virtual perspective, we do let anybody work from home or the office, but we still fancy the office.
No, I didn't mean your staff. I meant your sales are all virtual. So, I mean, do you actually send people to look at the houses when you're putting them under contract?
Yeah, so we have a few associates in every market that we exist in that actually physically go out, meet with homeowners about the property, talk to them. And then they're the ones, if we have a showing where we allow investors to come through, they're the ones who are at the property answering questions for prospective investors.
Do you really feel like you need to actually have the showing, as hot as this market is right now?
So we've gone back and forth on this. We've actually run experiments, and we are getting similar outcomes with or without the showing. The thing that we like about doing the showing is it allows the investors to kind of wrap their mind around, hey, I'm going to have to replace this cast iron plumbing, things like that you just don't see from the photos. Yeah. And so we're finding that it's creating a better win-win when we do the showings, but we're experimenting with some other solutions there to maybe eliminate the showing, but to give the investor who's buying the property confidence. That's what we really want to do.
I can give you a tip. You can put a camera.
I love it.
You can put a camera in somebody's hands and have them walk through the house and put everybody on Zoom that's interested in it, and save them from going to the house. Because I'm going to tell you right now, as an investor, as a buyer, you'd have a hard time getting me to physically go to the house and during a 1-hour window, but I might sit here and watch it. And, you disclose everything you see, and just, the truth is, in my experience, from all the other folks that I talk to that are doing multi-state, they don't They don't even touch the house.
Yeah.
Because it's going to sell. People will come from all over the country to buy it in this crazy market. So you get it under contract, and then you put it on, you check title first.
Yep.
Okay, then you put it on trolley.
Yep.
Then on some of them, you have this 1 hour open house thing.
Yes,
and
sir.
then you take offers and take the highest bid during the 1 hour open house, or or is there a time frame afterward?
We take bids up until the expiration time that's listed on the listing on the Trelly app. Usually it's about 15 minutes after the hour, 15 to 30 minutes after the hour showing happens is how we do it.
Okay, so back to your team. How big is your total team to do these 400 a year?
So there's about 55 people here, and there's about 12 people who are exclusively focused on acquisitions. So they're out physically buying the houses, looking at them, talking to homeowners, and doing all that stuff.
Well, good. So you got to tell me, how do you find so many deals?
A lot of advertising. So
I see you on television.
Yep, absolutely. So we do we start with digital marketing, direct mail. Those are probably our two things that we like to focus on the most today.
Direct mail, postcards, letters, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So we hit people with a multi-prong approach. So we're hitting them with a letter, postcard over a certain period of time.
Sequential mailing.
Right.
Okay. And what's your favorite target list?
So non-owner OC, 30-day past due. 30-day past due is a good list. It allows for a long period of nurturing. So for example, somebody misses their first mortgage payment. A lot of times they'll get caught up, but that can be indicative of things to come in the future years. So if we market to those people, we might be able to target that same list for a longer period of time. So
you mean they got a loan and they're 30 days past due on the loan?
Right.
Okay. And you can just rent that list. I know. So you rent the list, you send out postcard probably first to clean that list.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? And then you send a letter, then you follow it up with another postcard or two.
Right. That's exactly right. Yep. You wrote the playbook, Ron. We're all just copying you. That's
Well, true, but sometimes I forget this stuff, Josh. All right. So let me ask you, how many mailers how many's in your sequence?
So about 75,000 to 125,000 every 2 months.
Okay, but I mean, how many different mailing pieces do you mail to each?
Oh, 3 to 4, but typically we try to stick to 3.
Okay.
And we might hit the same list every 6 months or so.
So for the sake of our listeners who don't understand the value of sequential mailing, do you know what percentage of the deals you get in the second, third, and fourth mailer? Let me guess. Probably 75% of your deals come in the second, third, and fourth mailer. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's exactly correct. Actually, I would say probably higher than that, but right at about 75, 80% come at the second and third mailing.
Yeah. Okay. And I would probably guess if you did a fifth mailing, as a percentage of them, the whole sequential mailing thing is you're supposed to keep mailing till it doesn't work anymore.
Right. And the more what's crazy, right? Because the first time you mail, you're like, oh, the response rate's bad. And then the next time you're like, oh, look, it got better. And then it just keeps going up and up and up. And it's almost like you could use the same list sometimes for years.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
It's constantly being changed anyway. So it's so hard to get people to understand, especially if they're on a limited budget. I'm teaching them right now, Josh, if you're on a limited budget, for God's sakes, don't mail. There's too many ways to get deals without having to risk all that money on something you don't know anything about. All right, what else do you do to get them?
So we do television, radio.
TV, all them.
But for media, media with our digital and our direct mail, it's more of a direct response type of a campaign. But for media like radio and television, we're really trying to drive for brand awareness, and we're trying to create positive sentiment in a market is what we're trying to do.
Well, first of all, your TV ads have a call to action. So that is direct marketing. That is not brand marketing. And I'm going to tell you from a long experience, you ain't going to live long enough to create a brand. Okay. As far as, and you ain't got the money to put into this thing. As far as brands go, as far as there people are watching that, they're all alike. They're all the same person running those ads anyway. But anyway, it makes you feel better. At your age, you care about brands. At my age, I could care less. I just want the deals. All right. So,
What happens? Well, what happens though, Ron, is is our our media lifts all other channels. So if we're running a television ad, we will find that we have a higher click-through rate on digital advertisements because people now have some kind of a slight familiarity with our brand. And so when we enter into a market, we know what we see is we ramp down. So we start heavy with media and we start ramping down as we see that lift on our digital starting to improve. So part of our media, part of the reason we run media the way we do is because it acts like a corrective tool for all of our other strategies.
I get that. And I also get that when you're on radio and TV, you have to adjust with the time of the year because sometimes the costs are going to skyrocket, like maybe during elections or Christmas or whatever.
Yeah,
do you know what your average cost per call is on TV?
So I don't know what it is on TV because it's less trackable. It's a little bit more difficult to track. I can tell you that company-wide, just attribution. So people will hear our ad, then they'll Google us through our brand, and we need to attribute it back to that television spot, right? So that's really difficult. But I can tell you that our consolidated cost per lead is around the $500 mark.
$500 total per call?
Per lead.
Wow. Right. On the other hand, how many leads do you need to get a deal? 10
leads generates about 2 to 3 deals for us.
Well, there you go. Okay. So in other words, if I got to pay $5,000 to get 2 deals that average 24,000, that will probably work, Josh. It probably works. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that's a mind blower for most folks coming into it, but you don't have to spend. How much do you spend on advertising all in every month? Give or take.
It's a lot. We spend a few $100,000 a month.
Yeah. Okay. But you're doing 400 deals a year. Out loud. It's all relative. You didn't start that way, did you?
No. And we've just optimized marketing every month in, month out, looking for, okay, how can we get little points of increase, and over time that adds a significant amount of efficiency, right?
And you did what we all did. You spent a lot of money, you wasted a lot of money, very expensive training, and then it constantly changes on you because your sources change, and then you track your numbers so you can see what your costs are based on what your rewards are. Very simple. Jesus, the way all businesses have to run, but have a hard time getting people to understand that. You start small. You ramp up what works, you kill what doesn't, you try to always replace your controls, and you just keep going, and that never stops, honestly. You never get to the point where you say, oh, I got all the answers, so we don't have to quit testing anymore.
Right. It's always changing. Yeah, you've been around this for a little bit, I can tell.
I teach this crap. I used to. So what else do you do? TV, radio, direct mail?
So, and you called on it. You actually hit on something important, Ron, a second ago, was that it's always changing. So our marketing mix is a fluctuation based on what we are able to measure. So we are constantly changing how much we're applying towards digital or direct mail, TV or radio.
Yeah.
We're also doing things like we do texting. We do text outreach. We have a team of engineers, data scientists that go in and look at our data to try to figure out these people are likely going to sell their house, and their house likely is in disrepair. Mm-hmm. And so we actually text those people as well. That's something that we use launch control for. I don't know if you've seen that text platform, but it's pretty efficient, and it also is legal. So that's important.
Yeah, that is kind of important. What does it do to make it legal?
So, and this is going to sound crazy, but what you do is, let's say you want to send 1,000 text messages out,
Mhm.
you literally hit the mouse pad very rapidly. But each time you're pushing the button, that is legal because it's a human pushing the button to send a
Yep.
text, right? So that's how it's built
I
to
got it. So
rapidly accept your button.
for our listeners, Josh, they don't understand probably that it's illegal just to send text to people you don't have any relationship with.
Yeah.
From a broadcasting machine. So your guys are hitting them one at a time, so it bypasses that rule. That's smart. Right. I'm going to have my staff check on that as well. Launch control, huh?
Yep.
So you text, basically they're still rented lists that you're texting, right?
Mm-hmm. So we have owned lists. So we have owned lists that's we take third party, so Equifax, Atom data, we merge that together and do our own little data science on it. Mm-hmm. But we get drops with updated lists regularly.
All right. I'm sure you're running paid ads on Facebook and Google, are you not?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what your cost per call is just on those Facebook and Google?
No, I don't have anything on Facebook. On Google, I can tell you it's depending on the market, it's ranging from $400 to $800 right now.
Really? That's extremely high, Josh.
Yeah.
I mean, really high just for Google ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got a professional buying those things. I mean, that's way high. That's probably 4 times what it should cost.
Yeah. We saw a big increase actually in December. And
December, the cost was so high, they was through the roof. But right about now, that should have come way down.
So it's starting to. So that's why I gave you such a broad range there. But it's starting to, as of like the last 2-3 weeks. We don't know where it's going to go. My
guys are getting somewhere between $85 and $150 a lead off of Facebook and Google, and Google's better than Facebook.
Right? Really? Now. What kind of?
They're getting 1 out of 9 conversions.
1 out of 9. That's incredible. That's really good. I'd love to talk to your search team.
Well, they're using Jason Drone.
Okay.
For your information. DROHN. Okay. He seems to be the buyer for other real estate investors. Okay. Okay. So what else do you do?
So we have another, well, I think I've pretty much named just about everything. We've tested billboards in the past. We haven't had as much success with them. I think that they work. I think it just takes time to make billboards work. And I think it takes a lot of impression.
I'd never recommend billboards. I don't like recommending anything I can't test first, because I've done all that crap, man. I used to have a whole site of a bus, got almost no calls on it. I had billboards, and I used to run ads in the shopper magazine that they put out, and I'd run a little ad and I get calls. One day I went to a whole full page ad, got no calls. So the problem with that stuff is you don't get to test it first. Everything you have laid out here, you can easily test before you spend much money on.
Right.
That's the only way to market. Don't be trapped into letting the advertiser, like Yellow Pages. God, we used to put an ad in the Yellow Pages. Once you put it in there, it's in there. You're paying for it regardless, and it wasn't cheap. That's back when we had the real Yellow Pages. All right,
those salespeople are good too. They say, Ron, you only have to do one deal, and it pays for this for the whole year.
Yeah, but my next question would be, well, what could I do with that same money to get 2 deals?
Yeah,
or 3 deals or more. Okay, so you got a lot going on there. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in advertising. You've got all these acquisitionists. So basically, you're generating so many leads. It takes 12 people just to handle those, and whatever else do. They do anything besides just take these leads and follow up on them?
Nope, that's their focus.
So they don't any drive for dollars or any of that stuff, huh?
So we enable all of our people. They're allowed to do that, but it's not something that we hold their feet to the fire. I can tell you that each one of them probably on average brings in a deal a month that they find on their own through their network or something like that.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I got to ask you how you pay them. All our listeners are going to want to know that, because your acquisition is probably one of the most important ingredients of your whole business.
Yep.
We teach them to get them as well. But they always ask, how do you pay them? So when you brought them in, do you pay them a weekly pay until such point where they have to start producing? Do you still pay them salary basically plus, I hate to call it commission, plus bonus, or what?
So we have a couple of different levels of acquisitions associates, but the highest pay that an acquisitions associate can earn is 15% of whatever the arbitrage is. So if I buy it for 100 and I sell it for 120, they're getting paid 15% of that 20,000, so $3,000.
Okay.
There's another tier where they're at about 10% of the arbitrage. And then we have another tier that's on salary. So a lot of people will start W-2, they're in like a basic training tier, and then they advance into a straight commission tier.
So you do W-2 them, they are employees. Yeah, that's really the only way you're going to get by with the IRS. And so then when they start though, do you pay them a weekly draw to get them trained until they get to some point to where they're on commission only?
Yes. So we have training bonuses, and or they would go into the W-2 salaried role until they've achieved certain metrics.
How long will you keep them around before they produce, before you have to cut them loose?
45 days at most.
At most. Gosh, it don't take that long to figure out how to ask people what's the least you could take, does it? Huh?
No. It's pretty simple. And
Yeah.
we look for people that are coachable, that listen. The biggest thing, Ron, I will say, like, this is actually the real big nugget, is hire people that care about the homeowner. If you hire people that actually care about helping the homeowner, you're going to win. You're going to win. If you hire somebody who goes in and tries to close the homeowner on signing a contract, you're going to find more resistance than I think most people realize.
You are correct. Hey, by the way, do all of your deals come from FSBOs, or are you working inside the MLS as well?
So we used to work inside the MLS. We no longer do. I think the MLS, there's still stuff on there. It's just the time, energy, and effort just doesn't make sense.
Well, that's exactly what I'm telling everybody, Josh, because the same was true for me. In fact, I quit working with the MLS after 2016 because it just got to the point to where I couldn't get anything out of there. I mean, that's not true. I did some after that, but through 16, I didn't do anything but the MLS and got plenty of deals. But today, it's kind of worthless as far as finding these wholesale dealers. So we got to get into the world of FSBOs, guys. If you're listening, I keep pounding and pounding and pounding. If you want to do what Josh does and be like him when you grow up, then you better get into the world of FSBOs. Downside, you actually got to do some work and spend some money to find people. Upside, you're going to get better deals and more of them because that's where they are at. And that's where the whole world can't just look on a website and see everything that's for sale out there. So the easier they are to find, the more they're going to cost. So Josh, when you are selling these things, do you have a formula that you start with ARV and work your way down, or is there a formula you put on them, or what?
Yeah. So, I mean, we work our way down in the exact same way. What I think would be formulaic by market is, in Jacksonville, the return is higher than it might be in Tampa. And so we buy cheaper in Jacksonville than we do Tampa. And we do that by measuring the absorption rate or the months of inventory. That's so we're looking at what's available in the market versus what is sold, how much economic pressure is there, and that determines how much of a discount we need off the ARV.
All right. Well, you have in your head what's the least you're going to take, but I think you just told me that the market tells you what you're going to sell it for because they kind of bid on it, right?
Right.
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 So do you see these guys and gals out there paying really stupid prices for these houses compared to the ARV and the condition they're in?
I would say yes, but I thought the same thing in 2015. So, let's, like, in all honesty, I think that people are paying really high prices, but they're also, household income is shooting up, rents are shooting up. And I think a lot of people are buying based on 12, 18 months, which is risky, but it might play out.
I make it clear to all of my folks that you're buying to quick flip it and make a profit on it. That doesn't mean everybody else is, especially the hedge funds. They're not going to flip it. If they're happy with a single digit return 5 years later or whatever, when the market dictates, they'll sell and they'll get the upside. So they'll pay more. And then, of course, if owner occupants are out there buying them, they're always going to outbid the investors if they can write the check and buy the house. And then sometimes investors, like I sold two year before last in the same neighborhood that I've had for quite a while. And I kicked myself for selling them because on one of them, I put it on the market for $200,000. An investor come in and paid $200,000 for it. And what the hell is he thinking? But then again, the house was in excellent condition, ready to rent. So who's the smartest one here? Probably him. And now look what it's worth. I don't know, probably 275 or so. So I mean, I'm a buy and hold kind of guy. Honestly, I'm definitely not a wholesaling guy. I'm the guy you want to sell to. Of course, my first check was a wholesale check for $3,000 back in 1982. That 40 years ago, in case you can't figure that out. But I don't like wholesaling because you give away all the back end, you give away all the goodies. But in your case, you've turned it into a pretty massive business. So you're going for the cash now. So, that's another question. What do you do with money when you get it?
So I still own rental. I still own property. I have 50 doors or something around there. I still invest. I invest pretty much everywhere in asset classes from gold. I hate that I'm about to say this, but I've been investing in crypto since 2017. I haven't bought crypto in the last 16 months, but I invest in the markets. I invest in real estate. I invest in a little bit of everything, but most importantly, I'm investing in our business. And so when we make money, I'm trying to spend that money on what solves a pain point for a real estate investor, what is going to make a real estate investor more money. So just like you commented, Ron, our average take on a wholesale deal is 24,000. That's a lot higher than the industry norm. Yeah. And it's because of our process. It's because of what we've done the research and figured out how do we maximize our revenue. You know what I mean? So that's
exactly what you mean. In fact, how many people do you think that are out there right now rehabbing the houses and doing all that work and taking all that time for that same $24,000 you're getting, being in and out of it in a few days? How long does it take you to get out of the house when you sell it? Certainly not more than a few days.
So when we contract a house, we have it sold on average in 4.5 days. And after we find the buyer, we have a very low fallout rate. So after that, it's less than 5% of our deals fall apart.
There you go. So, when you, I'm just going to tell you what I think from an old guy to a young guy. Okay. If I were you, I'd take a lot of the money that you're making after the IRS gets through with you, incidentally.
Of course. And
put it into assets that produce income. I mean, I dabble in a little bit of that stuff you got as well. I mean, I got some gold. I don't know what I got, but I can't ever get enough income producing properties. So when I buy all of the houses from you in Jacksonville, what do you think I'm going to do with them? I'm definitely not going to wholesale them. Okay. But on the other hand, if I have to pay cash for them, when I pay cash, I sell for cash. When I buy on terms, I sell on terms. So I'm in the terms business, as you know, and I get all the goodies out of the properties. You're just getting one check and you're gone. So, but you're not a real estate investor. You're in a real estate business, and that's two different things. Okay, so if you had to give our listeners one piece of advice that you've learned that you think it would help them prevent a lot of mistakes, what would that be? Putting you on the spot here.
It's not about the answers to questions. It's about asking the right questions. And that's asking yourself, asking homeowners, asking everyone the right questions.
And I guess probably tagged along that is the asking for help.
Always. Yeah.
Something us men are reluctant to do. It's called testosterone. It's not our fault, by the way, Josh. We were born with it. And if we're men, we have to reinvent the wheel because there's no way something that's working perfectly can stay that way without us fixing it. So we got to get over that. All right. So if you had to start all over again, would you do anything different than what you've done?
I probably would jump right back into investment. If I started all over again, I would go back to being a flipper. Or I would be focused on the landlord game. And then maybe I would transition back into wholesaling, but I personally would not start wholesaling.
You wouldn't? Why?
to your point is that when you're brand new into the space, you want to get as much value out of the property as you possibly can. Because you need value. Where the stage of my career and my business where I'm at is I need velocity, not value. So my velocity will build my value. So I would get back in and I would try to take as much value out of every deal I possibly could. And then I would bankroll that into something else, into rentals or something to that nature.
Have you ever heard of work for equity?
Oh yeah.
Well, I invented that. And what I've done in the past is I take some of these properties that are not in horrible condition and sometimes not even livable, and I put work for equity tenant buyers in them in Florida, as is where is, let them fix them with their own dollars and be responsible for all the repair, and they never go get a loan. They just don't. Yeah. But it's a way to hold on to the properties. In Texas, you got to sell them with owner financing. You can't lease option them, but same difference, same end. In fact, I know some Texans out there that do 100, 200, 300 deals a year where they're just buying and selling with owner financing. They're a huge empire. Yeah. Of course, in Texas, you got the fastest state in the union to foreclose on them if you have to. Yeah. Now you get thousands of dollars up front and no hassle with the repairs, and you get them back and you keep doing it again. And the point is, a few years later, you look back and your values have doubled and all your debt is paid off. Yeah. Because you're using private money probably anyway, but it's such as cheap houses. It's a small outgo, and usually, well, you got to do it with cheap houses. It works better with cheap houses. The rate of return is ridiculous, especially when it's not your money in them. Yep. It's also maybe a good thing for you to use some of your cash for if you want to leave it in real estate. I'm just talking out loud here, but it kills me when I see a guy like you doing 400 deals a year and not keeping any of them. Going to be
again, I do keep a couple, but not a ton yet. And Ron, actually I'm kicking myself for not keeping everything from 14 to now. So I feel you.
It's going to get worse, young man. It's going to get worse. What if you just kept 25% of them and you had a whole crew just to handle those? And some of them you'll have to rehab, but you don't have to rehab them like you're going to cash out of them. You don't need granite countertops and all the fancy stuff in them. Yeah. And sometimes you don't have to touch them. I have done work for equity on condemned houses, Josh, just so you know. And buy them so cheap, I can lease option them way below market, but 2 or 3 times what I paid for them and not lay a finger on them. Anyway, you and I probably have another discussion on this because I just see you missing such a huge wealth building tool here. And all that actually can be done tax-free too. Yeah, so, to your point, I love owner finance and lease options. I think they're phenomenal. Like, I never got into the terms or really anything creative. I just never did. But knowing what I know now, that's the kind of area I would probably dive into, because to your point, you squeeze the most value out of it. You retain the asset as long as you possibly can. Yeah. There's almost no downside to doing it that way. No, it's all upside. Get all the goodies. All right. Well, anyway, my sermon is over. So I pulled all of you out of you. I'm going to pull out of you today. So is there anything you want to tell our audience before we end this thing today?
No, Ron, I appreciate being on your show. If any of your listeners are interested in Trelly, TRELLY.com, and they can email me directly, josh@trelly.com, with any feedback they have.
All right. Well, I'll be on it within the next 10 minutes.
That's awesome. I thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience and your success with us. You are a role model for people watching this podcast, and especially at your age, man. I didn't even get started till I was your age. I didn't know how to spell real estate till I was your age. So you really got an advantage, and you're going to grow this thing. And I'm guessing your exit strategy, if you even thought about that, is probably just going to sell it, because you got a machine that you can sell for big money. All right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And it's been a pleasure. And again, Ron, you're the real legend here. So thank you so much.
That's just because I'm old, man. That's all.
No, half the stuff you pointed out was incredible. So I just appreciate it. I really do. You taught me something today. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. That wasn't the intent. You were supposed to be teaching our listeners, but I can't help myself, man.
I missed it.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Thank you, Josh.
Bye.